Ashe, greetings, grand rising, a grand day, and peace and goodwill to you all. Once again, my fellow natural, native, earthly humans, you all, the Earth's organic humans and soulful humans the world over, and welcome to this, the second in the series of my lecture presentations titled Redemption from the Curse of the Bilak Spell Revisited. I'm yours truly, the Mystic Philosopher, and many thanks for stopping by and for giving of your time to listen and possible to be provoked into re-examining some of your long-held beliefs and maybe to think of or to see some things a little differently. Now, as promised in my introduction to this series, some of the thought-provoking ideas and unique perspectives that I will be sharing with you will be on topics such as words, language or languages, and the power of words, the power of language, and the power of names, the power of signs, symbols, energy, semantics, frequency, vibrations, curses and spells, and above all, and in particular, as it relates to us, the natural, native, earthly humans. Yes, we, the Earth's organic humans, the Earth's highly enriched melanin, highly enriched carbon skin complexion people, aka Africans, commonly called Africans, the curse and the destructive power of the dark magicians and the soulless creatures, aka the imperialist and colonialist word black. And why, by the end of this series, you should quite understand and understand why we must immediately stop calling ourselves black, and immediately stop accepting being called black. And I told you that I will continue to share much more on the colonization of the mind, aka mental colonization, and much more. Now, in part one, I featured the word and concept baptism. And in this part two, I will begin to talk about the things called words and the universe, and share some of my perspectives and what I think and know the universe is. Now, the universe as we think we know it is, full stop. It simply is. It is what it is to you, my listeners, and it is what it is to yours truly, the Mystic P, to me. It is what it is to us individually. In fact, from my perspective, it is only possible that none of us, it is also possible that none of us can think of and know the universe the same way. In fact, it is also possible that none of us can, or none of us may experience it, the universe, the same way. But that is a whole other topic and presentation all by itself. From my perspective, it, the universe, may be best described as a thought that is, and a thought that exists in the mind of its source. Whatever you may know, whatever you may believe or conceive its source to be, meaning whatever the individual thinker may know, may conceive, or may believe the source of the universe to be. The universe is also a generator, a producer, an amplifier, a transmitter, a receiver, and a manifestation of thoughts on this plane and in this physical reality. The universe is a thought that is and that exists in the mind of its source. So what then is a thought? What is a thought as we think we know it? Well, from the Mystic Philosopher's perspective, an original thought, if you will, is something that is germinated and created in the mind of its possessor, its holder, and its producer through the process called thinking. A thought can also be placed in the mind of others through the process called communication. In other words, not all our thoughts are ours, and neither are all our thoughts original. Original meaning that we were the first to have brought them or brought it into existence and have possessed them. And one reason why they are not original is because most of us are not independent thinkers. Most of us are not even thinkers at all. Most of us are just regurgitators, if you will, and recyclers of other people's thoughts and thoughts that enter into our minds through various means of communications, such as word, sound, signs, and symbols, etc., that I have spoken of earlier or elsewhere. Now, let us look at the thing called thought a little bit closer, or, if you will, much deeper. From the Mystic Philosopher's perspective, there is nothing that we can think of or talk about that does not already exist. In fact, one ancient philosopher over 3,000 years ago said like this, and I quote from the Adamic Race book. He said, "What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun." That is according to Ecclesiastes 1:9, New International Version. And I, the Mystic Philosopher, will hereby take the liberty and say, what has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under, above, or around the sun. Simply put, there is absolutely nothing new. And by the same token, there is nothing old either. Therefore, before we speak, we must first have something to talk about. Whatever that something is, or whatever that thing is, logic coupled with activated common sense will tell us that it must exist somewhere inside the universe, or it must exist somewhere outside of the universe, in one form or the other. I mean, like thinking inside the box, or thinking inside the container, or thinking outside the box, thinking outside the container. In other words, that something or that thing must already exist in the physical universe, or in the non-physical universe, aka the metaphysical, or it must exist in the multiverses. Now, if it is already in the physical universe, whereby our physical senses can detect it, monitor it, interact with it, and experience it, then the image of it can be easily replicated on our mind. For example, a car, a train, a ship, an airplane, a rocket, an animal, a pink elephant, etc. Once we hear the words or the names of any of these things, the images are instantly replicated and come to life in our minds. However, these things were once existing only in the metaphysical universe as what we may describe as energy, vibrations, spirits, and raw material for creation, etc. In other words, it is from the non-physical that the physical universe is formed. created, or even more correctly, manifested. So this is going to be the end of part 1 of this series. Sorry, the end of part 2 of this series of presentation, the redemption from the curse of the Belak spell. So please stay tuned, because there's a lot to digest from what I've just said and to contemplate. So please stay tuned for part 3, where we'll continue talking about the things called words, thoughts, the universe, and by extension, the universes, or multiverse. In the meantime and between time, here's willing that you be more and more and much, much more, and definitely not be less. Don't be less, and let no one be less you, but be more in your becoming, be more. For I am the Mystic Philosopher. Ashe, 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 I say. Thanks for listening. Please share.